It is what you know that has gotten you to where you are. It is what you don't know that will get you to where you want to be. Knowledge. The biggest barrier to learning is knowing. And knowing what you know is very limiting because it's only gotten you to where you are and it's helped you acquire what you have now. If you want more, you have to learn more. If you want to earn more, you also have to learn more. So when it comes to using the most valuable computer in the world, the one between your ears, it's important to activate that on a constant basis to keep growing your life. And the only way to grow your life is to grow your knowledge and grow your thoughts and grow your questions and grow your curiosity. So a lot of people, I guess, don't think. They just sort of react to based on what they know now rather than respond to what they need to know to get a better outcome, whether that be in your personal life, whether that be in your professional life, or that be in your recreational life. So I always have a nice little process of how to become successful in every area of your life. Number one is think about exactly what you want. What does your life look like? What does your business look like? What is the perfect business for you? Visualize that business very clearly with clarity and look at how it all operates from a profit point of view, from a personal point of view, from a product and service point of view, from an experience point of view, and also most importantly how it serves your life and the life that you want to live. Now when you visualize that, then ask yourself, what do I need to know, what do I need to learn to make that happen? So the first is the visualization of your goal. The second is, what do you need to learn and what do you need to know? What is the knowledge that you don't have now? What is the skills that you don't have now? What is the experience that you don't have now that will put you in a position where you can create that perfect business or that perfect life or that perfect relationship or that perfect sporting performance or achievement, whatever that might be. So knowledge is really important. And then you have to look out, where am I going to get that knowledge? Where is the best source of knowledge, the best source of skills, the best source of experience? And that may come from a variety of avenues. It could come from books. And I was taught once that your future will be dependent upon the books you read and the people that you hang out with. Now obviously back in the day, this is where we acquired knowledge in books, but now you can get knowledge from the internet and all sorts of social media websites and all sorts of places that you can acquire knowledge. But when I say book, I mean where are you going to get it in a formalized way? And as you can see, my books are full of people who have actually done it, not necessarily theorized it. Now, I always look, there's two different types of books. There are books who are people who are talking about success, but they actually haven't done it, but they analyze and study other people and they write a book on other people or other businesses or other sports people, and they look at all the clues and all the keys and all the formulas and all the checklists that make you successful and write a book. And you can get a lot out of that because basically that collectively gets all the different ideas from that author's research and puts it into a book where you can actually go through and work out the formula of success for your business, for your life, for your sport, or your relationship, whatever it might be. And there's all sorts of books, and there's limitless amount of books out there that you can acquire. But obviously you want to seek the books that you think that are more credible. Check out the author to make sure they're credible, that they have the experience, or maybe not the experience, but the intelligence and the wisdom. And obviously word and mouth is a big part of that. They're books that really take off because people read them and they become successful from them. The other type of book is the book that's written by someone who's actually done it. They don't study it, they have actually done it. And you've probably noticed in my collection of books, there's a combination of both of them, but there's also lots of books on people who've done it, from sporting, from martial arts, from business, and there are people who've actually written the books about what they've done. My personal view, that's probably the best source because you're not just going to get the formula, but you're also going to get the ethos or the context, not just the content of what makes people successful. You're going to get the journey and the experience and the emotion, not just the logic. And many times success isn't just logic. Isn't just content. It's not just tangible things. Many times it's emotional, non-tangible things that make someone successful, that they can apply the tangible things to become successful. And the best place to get that is to read about or study the experience of someone else going through a journey from achieving what they want to achieve, and learning from not just the what they did, but what they thought and how they handled that emotional journey. So one of the sources obviously is getting knowledge from books or sources on the website, or universities or colleges, or from websites and incredible websites, and there's organisations out there for different sectors of the business community that you can acquire great content of information. The other source is from directly with other people. Now, everyone is an expert in their own knowledge. Everyone is an expert in their life. So I guess you have to seek that people who have done what you want to do. And it may not necessarily be exactly what you want to do, but they've done and they've achieved and they've overcome the hurdles to achieve a significant level of success, whether it be in business or finance or relationships or sport, whatever it might be. And you know, it's interesting that Rory and I talk a lot about the books that we read and the people that we study. And I guess one of the things that we do is we study greatness. I guess I'm always thinking about greatness. And I learnt this great philosophy from Ferrari. The reason why we are the best is because we know we can always get better. Any great athlete, even if they win, they want to get better for the next event. They're always seeking that improvement, continue never-ending improvement. In Japan, martial arts, we call it Kaizen, means you're always wanting to get better at your skill, at your art, at your craft, or even at your business and at your life. And I have this great philosophy which I sort of learnt from the great psychologist Kman Freud. And when Kman Freud is one of the world leading psychologists and very famous, and whether you agree or disagree with his principles, we know him, but we probably don't know you. So he's done something of significance and added value to the world through his study of psychology and expertise of psychology. And when he was a kid, he said when he was a kid, he used to go to bed, his father would always come into his room and he was asked him the same question, says, "Sigmund, what did you learn today?" And sometimes he had learnt anything, and it was around that time that his father was going to come in and ask that question. So he would get up out of bed, he would get out one of the encyclopedias of information, and he would scan to a page and find something that he could learn so he could share with his father. What's interesting is that those little bites or snacks of information that he did every single day across many, many years of life accumulated into a huge pool of knowledge and wisdom. And because once you get that momentum of learning, you always seek to learn more, and you seem to be more open to new ideas. So that's a nice principle which I applied to my life many, many years ago, when I realised that I was probably at a plateau in my professional career, a plateau in my business. It was comfortable. Yes, some people saw me as being successful because I had what they wanted, but I knew deep down in myself I was more than what I have and more than what I do. So I wanted to grow my business and grow my life and grow my success. So I took on that principle. I realised that if I wanted to grow more, I had to know more. So I started the re-entering learning, because I went through university and I guess I was spoon-fed information that gave me the information that I needed, and I had the experience in the gyms and other businesses to start up my own business, which I thought was a super successful business, but it was basically a sole trader selling my time, and I wanted to take it to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. But I needed the knowledge of stepping stones, the stepping stones of knowledge to get up there. So I always asked myself this question. I adapted Sigmund Freud quote, and his quote was, "What have I learnt today?" And I changed it. I changed it to, "What have I learnt today and what have I done today?" Because learning leads to knowledge, but action leads to success. So you can become the most educated derelict in the world who's done nothing, super knowledgeable, but done nothing. And sometimes that might be, some people refer to them as pure academics. They got more degrees than a thermometer, but they've actually done nothing with it. And that's okay if their journey is to learn and get those degrees and then pass that on to the next generation so they can do something with it. There's certainly nothing wrong with that at all, because they're just the messenger of information. They may not have acted on it, but don't necessarily judge the messenger. Don't judge the knowledge based on the messenger, because sometimes great knowledge can come from very obscure and awkward and diverse sources of messengers. Sometimes you can learn from people who don't succeed. Jim Rohn, one of my favourite business philosophers, they call him the Socrates of business philosophy. And he was, one of my mentors that really opened up my mind and me to seek wisdom and the philosophy of life. And he says sometimes, it's great to study successful people, but sometimes it's important to study unsuccessful people. Look at the books that they're reading and don't read them. Look at what they're doing and do the opposite. So you can learn from both sides. You can learn from the people who succeed, and you learn from the people who don't succeed. Look at the people who are lazy and don't do what they do. They spend all their time sitting on the couch, eating chips, watching Netflix, and they're wondering why their life or their career or their business or whatever it might be is not growing. Then maybe they're not using their time in a valuable way that's going to give them the skills and the knowledge and the experience that's going to grow their life. So you can't dig a hole if you don't have the tools. You certainly can't dig a hole if you're sitting on the couch watching TV. So it's important that, think of what you want and then think of what you need to learn and where you're going to source that information, whether that be from books or from people. And people is that you develop what we call a mastermind group. A mastermind group is a group of people that you get together and you brainstorm ideas. But again, I learned from the Jack Reacher in the book, the Jack Reacher series, one of my favourite book series. He has a quote he said in one of his books is, don't brainstorm with people who don't have any brain. So be very careful with who you select in your mastermind group. It means they're the master of the minds. And they're people who have done significant things, not necessarily directly in your lane, but they've achieved great things in their lanes. And obviously if you can find someone who's very successful in your lane, then you're going to get some inside information and knowledge and wisdom and thought processes of how to succeed. And it's important to surround yourself with great, like-minded people. At the beginning of the program, we talk about campers, climbers and pullers. And, climbers are people who climb the mountain of success. They chase their dreams, they chase their goals, and they achieve them. They climb and they fall down, they get back up and they keep going. There's the campers who sit at the bottom of the mountain thinking about climbing, but they never actually take any action on it. And then there's the pullers, or the people who try to stop you from climbing it because you climbing it makes them look bad because they're not climbing their mountain. We call them the cynics, the critics, the naysayers, as Arnie Schwarzenegger would say. And again, one of the person I've studied, he's a very successful person in his lane in movies, and he became a governor. And he's a guy who could barely speak English from Austria, and he went to America and chased the dream and achieved it. So there's lots of things that you can learn from people who have done great things in their field of expertise, whether that be in the movies or in sport or in business or in the area of religion or politics. So your book should be a combination of all sorts of people from all different walks of life, because you can learn from everyone who's done great things. And obviously you can learn from people who haven't done anything. You can learn the reverse. If someone's rude, then you say, well, that's not what I don't want to be. If someone is not very successful, then you look at their thought processes. And because a lot of the time you can tell what's going in someone's mind by the words they say. People who don't achieve things says, I can't do it. People who do achieve things says, how can I do it? So my point being is, seek a circle of influence, we call it, a mastermind group of people that you hang out with that are high-level thinkers. And there's a great saying, if you're the most successful person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. Because if you want to get smarter, you want to become more successful, you have to hang out with people who have done more than you or more successful than you in the measuring sticks that you use to measure success in that field. If I want to become a faster runner, I don't join a walking club. And a lot of people like to surround themselves with people who aren't as smart as them to make them feel more smart about themselves. But really they're fooling themselves. You want to surround yourself with people who are smarter and better and more intelligent than you. It doesn't mean that you're not going to outgrow them. A lot of the people I have mentored, a lot of graduates I've mentored, and they've been my protege for 5, 10, 20 plus years. Many of them have actually grown their business and success to a greater level that I was successful in that particular field. One of my proteges and a good friend for well over 20 years, Andrew Simmons, now has a personal training franchise with over 60 personal training studios, turning over $60 million with 500 trainers, training over 10,000 people. Now, I've never done that, but obviously in that journey, he tapped into myself and Rory's mind to help him and have someone to bounce ideas off and without judgment, and to help guide, mentor through different processes. But what's interesting is that's where the student has gone beyond the master or the teacher, because the greatest compliment a teacher can get is when their student becomes more successful than them, and many of my graduates have actually done that. One of my graduates, Greg Evangelou, and Cleo, they're both graduates, and I've been mentoring him for well over 16 years now, since he was 18 years of age, and now he has this 3-story magnificent, most luxurious gym in the middle of Brisbane City, and he's achieved, which I've never achieved. I never had a gym that size, and I've worked in gyms, I've had personal training studios, but he's grown his success beyond what I've achieved in that field, which is a great compliment. That's the best compliment. People say, how can I say thank you for helping me? The best thank you can give me is become more successful than me. I get more satisfaction out of one of my martial arts students winning a world championship than me, who's won many world championships. I get more satisfaction. You're a great coach when you get more satisfaction out of your students or your athletes or your protege success than you do out of your success, because you're passing it on to the next generation. But to do that, you wanting to become successful, you want to surround yourself with great-minded people and action-orientated people and thoughtful people, and people who think critically and they think thoughtfully and they think with their mind, not with their emotions. And you want to create that. It's like creating a great team. And there's a book I just bought recently called The Legacy, which is here is Steve Hansen, The Legacy, which is a great rugby union coach for the All Blacks, and it's called The Legacy of how they built a culture in the All Blacks and a team that has become, I guess anyone says, oh, we're playing the All Blacks, and it's not, it's not, it's a case of you're not going to win, it's just how much you're going to lose by, and if you have a good day, you might almost beat them on an off day, because they built this fantastic culture within the All Blacks team and that culture, and you can tap into that. And how do they do that? And how can I take those ideas and those thoughts and those philosophies, and how can I implement that into my business? And if you want to create a great team, then you need a great coach, and you need like-minded athletes or people in your team, in your business team, who want to seek greatness, who want to become better. One of my students who owns a gym at the moment, who had around about 12 full-time trainers, he realised that after that awkward time during COVID, a lot of his trainers became complacent because the government paid them to stay at home, and all of a sudden they lost that hunger, that eye of the tiger. So he said, I need to change the culture. So basically what he did is he removed about 6 of those teams because they were too far gone to changing their mindset back to the mindset of becoming a great trainer and being committed to the cause and being completely dedicated, and the extra mile, they became minus miles. So he removed them off the team because they were infecting the culture and they were infecting the other team. We say, you only need one bad apple in a fruit bowl, and then before you know, all the fruit's gone bad. You need to remove that quickly, and that's really important, because if you can't save the apple, then you have to remove the apple, because that apple will drag the rest down. So he removed 6, and he brought new 16 players on, and they are young and vibrant and energetic, ambitious and driven, and they've just created a whole new culture, that buzz of positivity and hope, and we're going to conquer this and conquer that, and all of a sudden the whole culture in his gym has changed just by moving the team. And sports coaches do that all the time. They move players out and bring players in, and all of a sudden the whole culture of the team changes. For they brought the right players in and remove and they're not necessarily based on talent. Sometimes it's just the attitude. Wayne Bennett, the great football coach of here he is. Wayne Bennett, the great football coach of the Broncos, he's won 6 championships, and he's known as probably the best, all-time coach in rugby league in history. And he shared this great little view of when he watched his players train. And they're doing sprints. He looks at the end and see which players are slowing down before the finish line, and which ones are accelerating past the finish line. And he identified the ones who are accelerating past the finish lines seems to be the ones that become the future leaders, because they don't fall short. They do go the extra mile. And there's those little clues that you can learn from other crafts and other sports and other industries to apply to your business. And obviously you want to pick a great team. Jack Welch, who was the CEO of General Electric, who was voted many times the greatest CEO in America. And he wrote a great book called Winning, another one from the gut. And he talks about the 70-20-10 rule. And he'll identify there's always 10% of your team that probably needs to be removed, because they're in the forest, we call them dead wood. You need to burn them off, and that's not good or bad. That's just they have a change of attitude. They now become passengers. They're not drivers of the team. And then you have that 20% of people who are the leaders, and they're the drivers, and they're the people who lift the team. And then you have the 70% in the middle, which are the workers. And if that 10% grows too much, those workers will go to the lazy side. But if you keep that thin and you keep the leaders high, then they will tend to go towards the drive size that will drive the business to the places that you want to drive it. So yes, getting great mentors, getting great coaches in your life is really important. And that's not just within your circle of influence, your mastermind group, your group of critical thinkers where you throw ideas around, but also you want to take those lessons and apply it to building your own team to build your business. And many times businesses need to attract great people for them to grow, because the height of a business is determined by the people in that business, particularly if it's a business which is in the people-orientated business. And in the fitness profession, it is very much people-orientated. We need trainers, we need personal trainers, we need sales consultants, we need managers, we need supervisors, we need owners, you need group exercise instructors. So all of that is a people experience. It's not like you're going to buy a can of Coke at the local shop. It doesn't matter who serves you. The Coke, the person who serves you could have a bad attitude, but it doesn't change the taste of the Coke. You don't blame the Coke for the person who served you. If you go and buy a CD, you don't blame the rude person at the CD shop. Not that there's CD shops around anymore, because the product is very much, quarantined from poor experiences with people. But in the people business, we're very much exposed to poor experiences, because many times people will leave your business because they have a bad experience with one of your team players. So you really have to be on top of that. But you also have to be on top of yourself, because people will watch more than what you do, then listen to more what you say. So as a great leader, you have to be a thoughtful, critical, mindful leader, an action-oriented leader to apply things that you're learning. And people love change if they have someone to instigate that change with confidence and certainty for them. Because people always want to be a part of a bigger thing. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and that's one of the human needs of growth. But they need to be a part of it in a certain way, in a secure way, and that's called the human need of certainty. And that's where you need a great leader, where they have faith in you that it's going to be okay, because you're going to do all these great things and you're going to make sure it all works, and they want to be a part of that. So there's a great saying which I learnt from Jim Rohn: if nothing changes, nothing changes. And the great saying by the great Einstein, doing the same thing, expecting a different result, is the definition of insanity. It drives you mad. A lot of people keep doing the same thing, and they're wondering why they're not getting different results in their personal life, in their profession, in their career, in their business. So if you want things to change, you have to change first. As I think Mandela once said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. So if you don't change, nothing's going to change. So you have to change your thinking process, because people who become successful think very differently than people who don't become as successful depending on how you measure success. The people who have successful marriages think differently than people who have turbulent or divorced marriages. People who become rich think different than people who are poor, because your mind is your compass. Your mind is the most powerful thing, the power of the mind, because that will set the compass for you to take action on, and to also to react and to respond to any obstacles that come along. But collective thinking is very, very powerful if you get the right collective and the right mastermind group. And when you build a team in your business, then you want to be able to also ask for ideas in an open environment with no criticism or cynicism or judgment. And I've had teams in the past where I've had over 200 staff in different companies along that way. And many times, a lot of the great ideas that I've had haven't come from me. They've come from some of my team players, because they felt open enough, and the door was always open. I have an open door policy, so much so I didn't even actually have the door. My desk was amongst all of my team. You know, I learnt that from Screw Turner, who built Flight Centre. And see, all these great lessons I've learned from other great successful, Flight Centre is a $1 billion business all around the world. And he doesn't have an office. He doesn't have a fancy office. His actually desk is actually a door, like a door on an old door, and he put it on these legs, and he sits amongst his team. So he treats everyone the same, because no one's more important than the other. If your cleaner stops cleaning your business, people will stop coming to your business. So the cleaner is just as important as the CEO. We have a different job description, but what we both do is very, very critical. Your chief financial officer, your chief executive officer, from your salespeople, from your frontline team, from the person who answers the phone to the cleaner, everyone is just as important, because teamwork makes the dream work, right? And it only takes one thing in an engine of a car to be disconnected and the car doesn't work. And it could be the little smallest, tiniest thing, but that little thing is tiny, but it makes a big difference if it's not working. So everyone is important, and everyone deserves to share their thoughts. And if you can create an environment where your team can share their thoughts without judgment or without criticism, then you're going to get a lot. Now, we do know that you may have to go through a lot of mud and a lot of dirt to get to the gold. But if you don't go through the mud and the dirt, you never get to the gold. So lots of ideas that may come across your table, and lots of ideas that you may have yourself, may be silly. But you don't know, really, because we thought it was silly once that we thought that, hey, we can fly. But the Wright brothers proved that that wasn't silly at all. If you look at life today, and I've been fortunate enough to be on this great planet for approaching 60 years, and the things that we do now, I would have once thought that was silly. Everything that has been achieved was once thought silly. The concept of the internet was silly back when there was no internet. The concept of mobile phones, that was just silly in my mind when there were no mobile phones. The concepts of lots of things today is silly back in the day when we didn't actually have it. So there's no such thing as a silly idea. So just remember that there's no such thing as a silly idea. If a silly idea comes across your table and you think it's silly, it's because you're silly. It's not because the idea is silly, because we never thought we'd get to the moon, and we never thought, people obviously question that, but they question there's always going to be the conspiracy theorists. But don't ever think of any idea as silly. When I first started, and I guess I was fortunate enough that I did things that no one had done. I was one of the first personal trainers in Australia back in the late 80s. And everyone thought it was silly. So no one's going to pay for personal training. No one's going to pay that when they just go to the gym for $5 a week or whatever it might be. But I didn't think it was silly. I didn't listen to the naysayers. I didn't listen to the dream stealers. I just thought, well, if I'm thinking it, then someone else is thinking it. I can't be the only person in the world thinking this. There's no such thing as an original thought. You might be the first person to take action on that thought, but that doesn't mean other people have not thought about taking action on that thought previously. They just haven't taken action on it. So the first isn't necessarily the person who took action is not necessarily the person who thought about it first. They're just the person who took action on it. So being one of the first trainers in Australia, obviously we now know that that wasn't a silly idea because it's now a massive, massive profession. I was one of the first people to open a personal training studio, and everyone thought that was silly. Why do people go and pay to go to a studio and they go to the gym and get all the equipment and all the razzmatazz of the gym for a lot less? But I believe, as I'm thinking it, someone else will. So some people want to train in the privacy of a studio. They want that intimacy. They want that personalisation. They want that non-intimidating environment. But at that time it was silly. But now there's personal training studios all over the world. I was one of the first people to start a personal training course in the early 90s. No one else was doing it. But I thought, if I'm doing it, other people want to do this, and they don't know how to do it. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just sort of making my way through on my growing knowledge at that particular time, because I didn't have a mentor to teach me how to do it, because no one had done what I wanted to do. But I sort of grabbed ideas from other business ideas and other business mentors and leaders and applied it to my industry. So I created a course, and people thought, well, people want to do that because there's no industry. Well, I know there's no industry now except for me, but I know this would be a big industry. And so I started a personal training course, and Rory is one of the first lecturers on that course. She remembers the day. So there's no such thing as a silly idea. There's just silly people who criticises great ideas which they can't connect to or haven't been implemented yet, or maybe ahead of their time. One of my clients many years ago, Rob Vogues, he's a bit of a genius, so we're all lateral thinker, and that's what we're talking about today, lateral thinker. And he had this idea about a smokeless cigarette. Back in the days when you fly on a plane, that you'd have the non-smoking section and the smoking section in a plane. Isn't that funny? So he was sitting at the end of the non-smoking, and the next seat behind him was the smoking. So he's in the non-smoking, but all the smoke was coming across, and he says, this cannot continue. This is just doesn't make any common sense. And he said, there's going to be a time where this is going to be banned, but people will still want to be able to get a hit of nicotine. And they want to maybe do it in a safer way, in a way they can administrate the dosage. So he came across this idea of creating a smokeless cigarette, a electronic cigarette. Now this was back in the early 90s when I was training him, and he came up with a prototype, which was about this big when he first started. And I said, so how come you haven't made this? Because he said, I'm waiting for the technology to catch up to my idea. Something to do with the bubble jet technology and the size of the particles. And not only was that going to be something that you can implement to administering nicotine, but you could use it in other medical devices, I suppose, in administering other medicines in a more controlled way, rather than orally or injecting. You can actually inhale it. And he was way ahead of his time, and he had a lot of critics back then. I remember them because some of them were at the gym that I was training at, but there were also people who said, yeah, this guy's done some great things. Remember, he was retired at that time, and he took a computer idea over in Belgium, and he, maybe in the Netherlands, and he grew that company from an idea to a $45 million company, and he listed on the European Stock Exchange, and he sold it. Now it's on. But what's really interesting is you look around now, everyone has those vapors. And a lot of that technology came from his idea, which he put into his own IP. He sold it on to bigger companies, and now he gets a royalty for that. So there's someone who's a really out-of-the-box thinker. And if you're in the box, you're never going to think of any new ideas. And if you're in the box with other people, you're never going to come with new ideas. As the great Einstein beautifully put it, is that imagination is more powerful than education. Because education is defining, education is limited. You've been taught what we already know. Imagination is thinking about what we don't know and what is possible and what could be. And that's what it's all about business. What could your business be? What could your life be? And then you have to think outside the box. And because no one else has done it doesn't mean it can't be done. And because other people criticise it, because that's a big part of it. Some people criticise, but you ask yourself, have they done it? Have they achieved their goal? Have they climbed their mountain? Are they that type of people who's always critical of other people doing things or critical of ideas? The best way to deal with that is don't share your ideas. Don't share your ideas with people who don't support your ideas. Don't share your idea with the dream sellers. Don't share your dreams with dream sellers. They'll try to steal them. Share your ideas with people who support your ideas or support your goals or your dreams. And they go, yeah, that's the team that you want because that's going to be supportive. And they'll throw some ideas and throw the ideas into the hat. You know, whether that be from your team in your business, you get lots of great. And then when people share an idea in a business and you say, that's a great idea, let's implement it. Then they really take ownership of it and they really work hard to make it work because it is a part of their idea. And sometimes an idea is just a seed and it will grow into something bigger and something better because many ideas will grow into a new version of the idea when you get other people's views on it. Okay, that's a great idea. Now how can we make it better and what are the obstacles? What do we have to overcome? So when you come across growing your business or growing an idea and turning that into a enterprise or crystallizing into something which is tangible, then you have to get all the knowledge, and sometimes that knowledge may not exist if it's a new idea, if you're the pioneering it, but that's okay. Your mind will, if you ask the right questions to yourself, and you ask the right questions to your mastermind group, and you ask the right questions to your team, they'll collectively come up with great solutions. You know, I always say when I had a lot of team, if someone come to me with a problem, I'd say, I'm very open for you to share your problem with me. I'm very open for you to share a challenge, right? First of all, let's not call it a problem, let's call it a challenge, because a problem seems to be more like a barrier. A challenge is more something that you want to overcome. It's a challenge. I overcame that challenge, whether that's a problem. So don't be a problem focuser, be a solution finder. But my question was, if you come to me with a problem, you have to come to me with 3 solutions because that gets people thinking for themselves. A lot of people focus on the barriers, they focus on the problems, they're not focusing on the solutions or plan B or plan C or plan D or plan E. They just focus on A, which is the problem. But if there's a barrier, there's many ways around it. Over the top, going around it, going under it, blowing it up, or just walking away from it. So there's many ways that you can deal with it. But if you come to me with a problem, make sure you have at least 3 solutions. Now, I don't say one, because if I say one, it doesn't get you thinking deep. You're looking at just superficial, obvious solutions, which may not be the right solution. If I say 3, you have to automatically think of the first one, but then you have to dig a bit deeper, and then even a bit deeper for the third one. And many times the solution might be the third one, or combination of the 3, or the combination of 3 that leads you to a 4th one. So you become what we call a deep thinker, not just an obvious superficial thinker, and then go, well, that won't work because that's the solution, but that won't work. Well, what if we could change it to make it work? Or what would be another option? If we could do it, what would we do? If we did know, what would we have to know to do it? So, yes, you can actually collectively get lots of ideas from different team players and your mastermind group, and you can apply them in the initial seed, or that seed may grow into a different seed or a different plant as you plant it and grow it. And then as you do it, then you have to inspect what you expect, and then you have to monitor that progress and then make changes along the way. If it's a new idea, you may say, okay, well that we got it started, but many ideas that I've come up with, or my team's come up with, or my masterminds helped me with over the years, as I've grown it, I've changed it. So it's turned into this. But the start wasn't anything like that, but that got it started. Sometimes you just got to plant the seed and you think it's going to be an apple tree and it ends up being an orange tree or some other form of fruit, but it still turns out to be better than what it was at the start. So that's where when you implement ideas and you start to grow ideas into tangible results, then you have to monitor those results and say, okay, well, how can we make that better? It's like Ferrari, they come out with a new model probably every 5 years, and when they create one model, as soon as they release that model of that car, and most cars do this, as soon as they release that, they're already working on the next car, the next release, and they learn from how can I make that better, what did I learn from that, what worked and what didn't quite work, and what can I do to make the next one better. And if you look at maybe even computer programs like Microsoft, there's lots of different versions, or Apple, the different versions of Apple, the first model, version 1, 2, iPhone 3, 4, all the way up, they keep getting better because they think outside the box, they think beyond where they are. This is, hey, we've achieved this, great, pat yourself on the back. So it's really important to be grateful for what you got while exploring what you want. and keep growing that. And that way, if you do that, you will stay always ahead of the marketplace. You always stay ahead of your competitors, because if your competitors are copying you, they're copying the previous season, or they're copying the previous edition, or they're copying the previous idea. You've already moved on to the next. And when you've got it, then change it. There's a great book by Tom Peters called The Innovation of Thought, I believe. I can't quite remember the title of the book, but he says, if it's not broken, break it. Because if it's not broken, it will soon become age. It will soon become yesterday's idea. It will soon be yesterday's model. So if it's not broken, break it. So great ideas come from a great result, then breaking it apart and making it better, and breaking it apart and making it better, and breaking it apart, and do that with your mind. And the great part of that, it stops you from getting mentally lazy. It stops you from getting, I guess, dementia or mental health challenges or Alzheimer's, because your mind's always working. One of the worst things you can do is to stop your mind being activated and stop thinking about ideas and stop inventing ideas. And that's why I love doing martial arts, because there's lots of patterns and lots of movements and lots of physical and mental connection. And if you can do that also in your business, if you're always reinventing yourself or reinventing your business, and that business is a moving target, it's always evolving and getting better, your mind's always getting better. And if you engage your team to be a part of that process, then collective thinking, whether it be critical thinking or thoughtful thinking or goal setting or dream setting, or what it might be, all of that collectively creates this magnificent energy in yourself and in your business. And there's nothing better than when a team actually achieves a great result. And I've competed in martial arts, and I've won world championships in individual, which is very satisfying. Don't get me wrong, it's very, very satisfying. But when I actually compete in a team, it's just a different feeling, because now you're joyful for other people's wins, and you're joyful for the team's wins. Because if you want to make the team better, you have to be better, and your driving force is to do it for the team, not just yourself, for a greater cause. And some of the world championships I've won in teams have been, I wouldn't say more satisfying, but it's a different feeling in a team when you work together to achieve, because team is, together each achieves more, as the great old saying goes. But I'm also a bit of a solo person, so I also like to do my individual things where, if I fail, because I've got no one to blame but the person in the mirror. Sometimes in the team, you put 100% in, but the team doesn't achieve what it wants to achieve because maybe someone dropped off. But you find with a great coach, then that coach will massage that and adapt that to make sure all the team are on their game on game day, whether that be on your business. And the thing with business is every day is game day. Every day you get up in the morning, you go in there and you're ready to implement ideas, and you're going to test and measure them. You're going to change them. If something doesn't work, then you change that system. If something doesn't work, you ask people's advice. If something doesn't go well, if something goes great, then you say, hey, let's use this great result and apply that across the business, get other people's ideas, and then go for it. But always remember is that it may not always work, but that's okay. In Jiu-Jitsu, there's a great saying, there's no winning. In Jiu-Jitsu, there's no winning and losing, there's just winning and learning. So if things don't work out, it doesn't mean that you lost, it just means that you learnt, and you take that lesson and you take another action, and then you learn from that by winning or learning again. And if you keep winning and learning across your life and your business life, you will win enough. But those wins many times will come from the learning from the losses or the mistakes or the stuff-ups or the muck-ups. And that's okay. It's not going to kill you. It's just as long as you don't attach your ego to the outcome, you'll be fine. If you attach your ego to the outcome, it's going to be a rocky road. If you don't blame other people, there's a great story in How to Influence and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, one of the greatest books ever written on success and communication, about the pilot. And he's in his plane and he ran out of petrol because the fuel guy forgot to put petrol to top up the petrol in the plane. And he was feeling really bad because he could have killed the pilot because he stuffed up, he didn't put the petrol in the plane and all that stuff. I don't want to go into the detail of it. And he says, I understand if you want to sack me. And the pilot said to him, you're the last person I'm going to sack, because I know you feel so bad about that mistake. I know that you never ever make it again. So, sometimes a big mistake can be a great lesson that you don't want to get rid of. It's like the gentleman which I read in one of the other many books I've read over my journey, about the guy who made a decision on behalf of the company and lost $1 million contract. And he went into the boss's office and said, look, I understand you want to sack me because I just lost the $1 million contract. And the boss says, why would I sack you? I just spent $1 million in educating you. Because I know you're never going to make that mistake again, because it was so costly, therefore it's really scarred you in a way that you're not going to do that again. So I want you to embrace sometimes the results that don't go your way and turn them into lessons, and then you're going to apply that to become successful, as in the great book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, who shared with his rich dad, says, how come you make so many good financial decisions? And the rich dad says, because I've made so many bad ones. I made so many bad ones when I was younger. I ran out of bad financial decisions, and I started making the good financial decisions. But you have to go through the bad ones, or the poor ones, or the ones that are not based on a lot of knowledge and experience, but a lot of maybe hope and positive attitude and all that, till you get to the good ones. Because I know that if I say this to my martial artists that I compete, I said, if you train enough and you become good enough and you compete enough, you will win enough. You won't win all the time, but if you don't quit, you will win enough, because you will learn from your losses to apply into your next bout or to your next championship. So there's some ways to challenge your mind, for you to challenge yourself, learn more, upskill yourself, get more experience. Experience are the ones that turn out well and the ones that don't, that you learn the lessons from. Surround yourself with like-minded, a mastermind group with brainstormers who support your dreams. Accumulate a team around you. And in that mastermind group, it could be all sorts of people. It could be your lawyer, it could be your accountant who have technical knowledge and skills. It could be other business owners. It could be your mum, who might be your biggest evangelist. You might sometimes just need a cheerleader. I know my mum was very supportive of my dreams. No matter what idea I share with her, she said, that sounds great, off you go and do it. Sometimes you just need that little positivity, that optimism from someone on your team. And remove the people who are going to try to pull you down, who are trying to stop you, the critics, the cynics, the naysayers, the pullers we call them, because those people will infect your mind eventually, So make sure that you will be the average. There's no saying that you'll be the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. So if you look at the 5 people in your life, you will be the average of them. Their average income, their average career position, their average success, their average health, their average wealth, all of those things. You'll be the average of that. So if you want to change your average, sometimes you may have to change who's in your inner. And never give up, always keep applying, because if you keep doing, there's only 2 times that you fail. Number 1 is when you quit, now you fail. But if you don't quit, you never fail. Number 2, which I think is even worse, is if you don't even start, because you come up with all the reasons why it won't work before you even start it. Rather than saying it won't work, say, how can it work? It's a different mindset. It's different vocabulary. If you think that way and you speak that way in your mind, you're going to be positive thinking. You're going to be critically thinking. You're going to have great imagination. You're going to have great optimism. You're going to do things with a good spirit. And I do know that in life it's all about energy. If you put good energy out there with actions, because motion creates emotion, then you attract the right people, the right opportunities in your life, and you're going to build a great life with great people, with a great business, serving a great cause and a purpose. See you in the next K-Max.